Yeah, hey Sky. Sorry, man. Sorry about your data loss. I know that's killer. Because I imagine there's some files that you probably had years ago that you can't even find anymore. You know, the mod authors maybe took them down. I remember there was this one mod. I think it was Katarina. It was a really cool Skyrim mod. Back it was back for Skyrim 32-bit, I think, and it was custom voiced. She was like I think she was like a vampire. She was there in Windhelm. I can't remember the name of the inn there, but like Candle Hall or something, Candle Hearth Hall, I think it was called. And she hangs out there, and I believe she was I want to say a vampire, but I'm not sure. And but couldn't find it anywhere. The mod author took it down, and I actually wind up having to track it down all the way to a Russian website, believe it or not. It took me a while to find a link to it, and I downloaded it. There wasn't anything weird about the site or nothing. It was just where they had um, basically staged mods. And I finally tracked it down and got it. And I thought, well, I'm going to hang on to this because if, because the mod author took it down on the Nexus, a lot of them kind of bolted. And I'm like, well, if I have this, then when it comes time to convert over Skyrim 32 to Skyrim SE, it should be able to do it programmatically. If I know what changes were made, then I can write a program that will easily convert stuff over. But let me show you, like here, basically what I'm doing here, and it's the same thing. Um, and maybe this will give you some ideas. Maybe kind of like because I'm facing the same problem here. I've got an ever increasing amount of data storage, so I've got a data storage issue that I'm going to have to find a way to programmatically manage or provide the tools to manage that, and it's always going to be increasing in size. So to kind of start out with, I don't know what mods I'm ever going to use. I don't know what mod packs, if they want to call them a pack, or what mods I might want to put on my game. I might not really know how the mod author did something, or they may have an asset that I might want to kind of see how they did it or take a look at it and mimic that asset. And if that asset is gone, then that's just going to be that much more difficult for me to. That's more legwork I'm going to have to do. Now, granted, if I did the legwork myself, that would be much easier, or it'd be much harder. But in the long run, I would learn more about it. But oftentimes people find little neat little workarounds and little tricks and ways they code things, and I'll take that structure and then I will build my coding around another type of structure if it's solid and it works. So I don't know what mods I'm going to need. So, and plus I think my OCD kicks in, so I wound up collecting a bunch of stuff anyways. But I'm going to show you the way I do it, and maybe this will give you an idea. And this is just an initial management way of doing it. It's just like throwing. It's like saying, okay, this is the problem. So how are we going to solve it? If you take a look at downloads, and this is only what I currently have now on a local drive. So I do have a local drive here on this computer, and I think it's 10 or 12. I think it's 12 terabytes. It was a used drive, so it's going to have a limited. Well, I'm sorry, the 12 terabyte was for my game. I believe this one's 8, and it's long. It's long full. So you can see here, I only have what 700 and roughly 779 gigabytes on. I believe it's an 8 terabyte drive. So it's full. Now it's got it does have multiple versions of certain mods. So like as an example with SS2 or what's the other one? There's like a gun. It's like Navesk something or other. I can't think of it. It's like Navesk something. Like he comes out. This mod author puts out a 6 gigabyte drop 2 or 3 times a week. So I'll download that version and then I'll back it up in case for some reason I want, some reason, like, because sometimes something can get changed and get carried over in multiple versions and it literally breaks, or you need to go back to a previous version. So I'm not sure which one I'm going to need. So not knowing that means I'm going to have to collect a lot of data. Also, the application needs to be able to handle a lot of data. So, and I'm trying to develop certain ways to do that. So just to show you, this is kind of example of what you had. This local drive here literally has, there's 121 or 134 here new mods that I've downloaded. But if you go up here past the little recent bar, see, this is the little recent. This shows the recent downloads. There are 104,000, roughly 104,455 mod files. That's just on this drive alone. That's not backups or archives or anything. That's just this local hard drive on this computer. So, so what I did was to show you over here is let's say I'm going to download this particular mod. Okay, we're going to punch it, no big deal, and it's going to download the mod. Okay, so there it goes, and you're going to hear a beep. So that beep meant that the program was watching for a download to take place. I'll do another one here and show you what I mean. So this time we're going to grab, that one will be too quick. We need to find one that's at least, okay, so we're going to do this one. All right, so you'll see over here in the downloading files, it picked up the fact that a temporary download file was created. See, and it's keeping track of how big it is. When it's done, it will move that file from a download folder over to my local mod folder. Now, this is it's a blind thing. It cannot tell the difference between a mod folder, a mod archive, and let's say if I downloaded a software update for, I don't know, anything. Like, let's say I wanted to install Notepad++ that came in a zip file. It wouldn't know the difference, and it would copy it over here. So it's a blind copy. I can go over here and turn that feature off. See, watch folder. I can turn this off. And over here, you will see that it's no longer watching for downloads. So I can do that. It's just something you have to kind of tinker around with. Okay, so now that's done. What I wanted to show you was I do have a NAS box. It's an older computer. It's over to my right. It's networked, so it's networked with Ethernet. You just need a hub, like a switch, so that way, because Ethernet literally broadcasts everything across all the lines, and only that network card which that packet is destined for will actually use it and respond, although you can see it across almost the whole network. So there's a NAS box over to my right, and what I did was I just needed a boot drive. So and it's small. It's free program. TrueNAS is free. I believe there's another one, OpenNAS or something. I forget. It's Linux based, but it's free. And well, the non-commercial version is free. But if you need multiple NAS nodes, then like if you're gonna bridge this across multiple nodes, then you have to pay for that version. But just to have a single box, no. That single node box, no. That's absolutely free. You don't have to pay nothing on it. And you install that on the hard drive. And basically from that point, if you put other hard drives on that computer, and NAS drives are really cheap. They're very, very cheap compared to more high-speed drives that you might want to use for a boot drive or something else. They're very cheap. Well, let me put it this way, they're cheaper. I think a 10 terabyte drive is roughly like about $190, and that's brand new, and that's 10 terabytes. So what you do is, and this with TrueNAS, you can use hard drives of different sizes. You can have a 1 terabyte, a 512 gigabyte. You can even have a 125 gigabyte if you want to use something that small. Or if that's all you have, that's fine. It's perfectly fine. But you stick all these drives in there, and then when TrueNAS runs, it asks you, okay, what hard drives do you want to put in this gigantic storage pool? So what it does is you say, okay, I want to take, like in my case, I want to take 2 drives, and I want you to create a pool on these 2 drives. So I'm adding these 2 10 terabyte drives to a single storage pool, and you give that pool a name. You can call it My Storage if you want. And then so when you're going to access that network drive, you're going to network My Storage. Because NAS then realizes, hey, you're asking for files that are spread across 2 drives. And it could be 3, 4. I'm not sure what the limit is. There probably is a limit of drives, but I mean, if you got 4 or 5 drives in there, it should be enough. And you can create multiple pools. You can create multiple data sets. So you can have multiple groupings within pools. And you can set up multiple accesses so that you can have access to it. And then, in other words, like you could if you've got a large storage area, you can put videos on that. You can put your music collection. You know, DVDs are easily damaged, so you rip your DVDs, you stick them on your server, and you have a media server. And like back when my kids were really young, I actually did that with music because they kept playing my CDs and they kept scratching them up, my music CDs. And I'm like, okay, if you guys trash these, some of these I can't find anymore. Some movies I can't find anymore. So I'm going to just rip these, put them on a server. You can watch them directly off the server, and at that point, it's just a file. So and that way you can protect your collection. Um, so now that I've downloaded this file, and you can see where it was downloaded, what I did is I simply create a copy. So if you look over here in mod downloads, I'm going to fire this off. So all this, so you can do this manually. You can do this with Windows. You can use it with the I think it's Windows File Explorer, where you can just you can access your NAS, and then you can just copy the files over. I wrote a little bit of code, and it's just a network copy code. And if you notice, all it did was it mapped certain drive letters to that NAS. It does it automatically. It's like, okay, you want to copy a file to a NAS drive. Is it already mapped? If not, I'm going to have to map it. And that's what the software does. So it maps it, and now as it's copying, what it's doing is it's actually checking to see if the files that are local, these files here, are they on the NAS drive? And if they are, you can see it's skipping them. But when it's not, it'll copy it. And technically all I did, I tried using Windows copy. I tried to use basically a file copy from within the actual application. But the problem was with very large files, it tanked it brought everything to its knees because it just kept dumping so many packets that the network would drop to its knees, or it would fail with very large packets. So what I did is I simply thought, okay, I'm just gonna take the idea of this large file and I'm gonna open it up on the other end, and then I'm just gonna copy it in chunks. And then once I've got it copied, I'm gonna do a simple compare to see if the file copied okay. And if it did, we're good to go. We move to the next file. But it also allows you to throttle it down. So you can go in and say, okay, I don't want this thing to go up above like 1 megabit per second. So I don't want it to go up 1 megabit or one megabyte a second. I don't want it to go up that high, or I don't want it to go any higher than that. And you can set that as a limit, and it will, once it goes above that, because it has a, over here you'll see it's the BPS. Once this gets above a certain limit, it'll start throttling itself down. So that way it doesn't eat up a lot of bandwidth. But the reason I'm showing you that, just to give you an idea of using a NAS drive, you just need an older computer. It doesn't have to be anything. It can be a 2-core Intel if you want. It can be a 2-core AMD. I'm running it on a 4-core AMD. I believe it's the old pile drivers. Uh, yeah, it's just the old pile. It's the old pile driver cores. It's not. It doesn't have to be a new PC. The one thing it does require is, I think it requires at least 8 GB of RAM. That's because it caches a lot of the data. That's part of the speed of a NAS, is it has to cache a lot of the file structures and things like that. And what you can do is you literally, and if I'm not mistaken, because I was talking about this with somebody at work, because I've never used a NAS drive before. I mean, not like this where I built it myself, but I mean, I've done the networking here in the house. I've done all that, and I build PCs, but I've never built a NAS drive. So I was like, wait a minute, what if I want to add more drives to it? Can I just dynamically do that? And then I was thinking about, well, of course you have to be able to do it, because that's part of, it's going to expand. You're going to run out of storage. And it would be nuts to have to buy another computer or use another older computer, buy a bunch more drives, and then copy everything over just to expand it. So I believe all you have to do is crack open your box, drop a new drive in, go into the, it'll recognize the drive, go into the drive pool, say I want to add this to the current pool, and now your pool is expanded. So your storage area is expanded. And this way you can literally back everything up, because the only thing that I work with this mod manager, if you want to call it that, because like I say, there's all kinds of data management tools, there's all kinds of stuff built in, because I hate, it's not that I hate, I'm not that I'm lazy, I can't be very efficient at what I do if I'm having to do everything manually. So it's easier for me to invest the time to do something programmatically, and then I can free that time up to do more creative thinking and more production planning, if you want to call it that. So the only thing I have local is this. So there's 100, let's say there's 104, roughly 104.5 thousand files here. Um, from that, I back that up. So these are all backed up. So these are shadowed, if you will, on a backup drive. And then this way, if I lose this hard drive, this particular hard drive, I can easily restore it based on now that's an interesting problem there, because the files I have on here are not all the files that's on the backup drive. So in the case that this drive goes down, what I would do is simply go in and code, just write a little simple piece of code to copy only those download files that are currently active. So as example, if I was over here, if I was going to solve the problem, I would look over here and say, okay, I'm using this is two versions of the same thing. So let's say I'm using feral infestations. I need to find out which archive I'm using. So in this case, this is the archive that should be installed. And I'll just double check that to make sure. So we'll go over here and we'll take a look at this. We'll check install. Yeah, so see everything. This is the mod that is correctly installed. So technically I could uncheck this one, which is what I'm going to be working on today. That's part of the code I'm going to work on today. It's in there, but it needs to be debugged. But that's a side story. So I can easily go in and say, which archive does this belong to? It belongs over here. I could have actually found it. I could go in and do a search. So what this lets me do is search for mods, right? So I have to have a database of mods in order to search. So that's part of what this process is, right? So I would probably only copy back those that are active, which would really free up a lot of hard drive space. And that's probably going to be the route I'm going to go to. But the reason I don't do that right off the bat, or the reason I don't do that now, is because I still need these files. So this is the primary copy, then the shadow copy is on the TrueNAS. If I delete these files, I only have the shadow copy to fall back on. So I'm going to need copies, I'm going to need a backup. And therein lies the problem with data storage. It's always going to get larger, it's never going to decrease. So to me, the best option is using something like TrueNAS, because I can literally take another older PC, I can install TrueNAS again, I can drop a couple more very cheap hard drives in it, and now I have a second shadow box. You can stripe it. I stripe it when you write out. You can stripe it, or you can actually use parity. I think it's like a parity check or something, where it requires one. You have to have one whole hard drive so you can rebuild the other bad ones, and that's a nice way to do it if you have a lot of drive space. At the time I did this, I used striping, so there's no necessary recovery on it, other than the fact I have drives with multiple. There's the files are on multiple drives. So the next step for me would be to take another PC I have, make another TrueNAS box, put more drives in it. So I already have the PC. Technically, the cost is only going to be for two 10 terabyte hard drives. Drop it in there, and then I'm going to, well, I'll probably put three. So it's going to be about a $600 cost to get the three hard drives. Put those in there and not stripe it, but use a parity check, and then create one to where if the when one of the drives gives out, I can rebuild. I can just drop another hard drive in, and I can rebuild the data. So it's going to take an extra hard drive to do that. Whereas now I didn't necessarily afford. I couldn't afford it, or didn't choose to afford it. Let me put it that way. The NAS drive isn't used that much. I only use it as backup. It's not used for like a database server. It's not used anything online. So it's not used, it's not consistently under use. So therefore the longevity of it should be acceptable compared to something that's going to be used all the time. Um, like I say, I do need a second shadow copy, because I'd cross the same problem. How do I back it up? Do I need to get tape drives here? Do I need to get some DAT drives? I think it's like digital audio tape drives or something. DAT, D-A-T. Do I need to get something like that to back things off? I even thought of Blu-ray, but a Blu-ray, even compressed, I can't get only so many gigabytes, for 40 gigs on a Blu-ray. And if you've got 20 terabytes of files, that's just not like that's not feasible. It's not cost effective. It's the best way to put it. The most cost effective way is a TrueNAS box built from an older PC, drop some hard drives in it. That's why you see so many drives that are in the industry now, because that is the cheapest backup media to use. But yeah, I hope that helps. I can help you set one up. It's not that hard to set up. I've never set one up before. I just used some videos online. It's pretty easy. Um, and like I say, this lets me back up all these files, which is necessary. And I know it's a bit late. Uh, I know that, and there may be some files you might not be able to recover. That's why I started backing all these up, because people started taking stuff off, and it's like, oh man, that's a really cool mod. And they're like, yeah, I don't like the politics, or I don't like this, so I'm taking my stuff down. And then everybody throws a fit, and then it's kind of like, yeah, I get it. You weaponize the community, but then you have enough people doing that, and pretty soon the whole community's at odds with each other, saying, oh, well, Sky, or, Panda, it's your fault because you said something, so they got mad and took their stuff down. Really, I'm responsible for that. I mean, their reaction, really. Um, so it just became a mess. So my solution, the only solution I thought to keep things as pure and as clean as possible, is, you know what, I'm just going to download it. I'll take the storage hit, and that way I don't have to deal with any of that silliness. So I just want to share that with you. Sorry for your data loss. I hope you get everything recovered. And I know it'll take some time, but don't let it get you down. Um, it's all kind of part of the mess, and yeah, I don't know if you can set them all like read only. Like, I don't even know if you set them read only, if Vortex would say, okay, it's a read only file, I'm just going to trash this. And I don't know why, I don't know what somebody appends something onto a file. I don't know anything about that. That doesn't make a lot of sense, but maybe, I guess there's some reason the programmer did it, the developer did it, I'm not sure. I've never seen a need to do that. I use data files to keep track of everything, and that way I can easily rebuild it. Like, for example, these files here are actually stored in the load order file. So everything that's active goes with this load order. So because this load order is comprised not just plugins, but it's comprised of decompressed uh, archive files. So these are folders. See, these are just basically folders that you go up here and you can show the folder. So it's a folder, but it also requires an archive in order to do it. So I keep all that with the load order. So it all goes together. It's the same with issues. All that goes with loader. But that's just the way that I decided to approach solving the problem. So, all right. Well, good luck with it, man. I hope it all works out, and just let me know if there's anything I can do to help. All right. So good luck, and sorry again about losing your data.